Okay, welcome back to members of 121 Community Church in Grapevine, Texas. Our ongoing study in the book of Revelation by John the Beloved. We're going to take a look at chapter 6, verse 3 to chapter 6, verse 8. We're going to take a look at the second, the third, and the fourth seal. Continuing to look at the judgments of the four horsemen. And we will have some additional data for the first moment, block 1, concerning the Roman Empire. So let's begin there. Let's go to block 1 and take a look at the second seal. And in verse 3 we read, "When he opened the second seal, I heard the second living being say, 'Come forth.' The tribulation of war is against the spiritual enemy Satan. The divine decree of suffering for the oppressors goes forth." Now verse 4, we read, "And there went out another horse that was red. The power was given to him to take peace away from the earth." That's key right there. He was to take Irene, peace, away from the earth. And Irene, peace, is the healing of fragmentation. So in other words, he was to give over the Roman Empire to fragmentation because peace would be taken away, so that they would kill one another. And there was given unto him a great sword. And we've got to take peace from the earth. There you go. Labain 10 Irenen. Irene is peace. In other words, to break apart the unity of the Roman Empire. To break apart the unity of the Roman Empire. A breaking apart of unity. And as a result, they will slay one another. And that's exactly what happened to the Roman Empire until Constantine won his victory and declared Christianity the national religion. If you look at Matthew 10:34, we read, "I came not to bring peace, but to bring a sword." And also Matthew 10:28, "Fear not them who kill the body, rather fear him who is able to destroy both soul and body in hell." All of 6, 1 through 8 is directed to the experience of Christians under persecution. And you can cross-reference Ezekiel 14:17, or if I bring a sword upon the lands and say, "Go through the land," so that I cut off man and beast. And in Ezekiel 21:14, this sword of judgment belongs to the Son of Man. The sword applies to both Israel and the nations both. In Enoch, the great sword is given to the righteous to execute judgment on the wicked. Righteousness shall be victorious. But what is essential about this particular 2 verses, 6, 3, and 4, is the fact that it is declared, "I will take the peace from the earth. I will remove the peace from the earth." And the earth was the Roman Empire. I will remove the peace from the Roman Empire. I will give them over to fragmentation. And so, what's interesting is to look at what happened to the Roman Empire after the exile of John to the Isle of Patmos. You've got AD 95, when we have the date for John's apocalypse, in exile on the Isle of Patmos. And then the emperors of Rome are cast into turmoil. There are 5 emperors from AD 96 to 180. It's huge. From 96 to 180, they actually had 5 different emperors. There was a turmoil in government. But that became intensified when next the emperors are next decided by military strength from AD 193 to 284. Even greater fragmentation took place, even greater turmoil from AD 193 to 284. The emperor was decided by military force, and the empire split into east and west. Then it was not until Constantine in AD 324 that the empire did reunite, and Constantine declared Christianity to be the state religion. In other words, this is not the fall of the Roman Empire, but it is the beginning of the fall of the Roman Empire. It is the first moments of fragmentation, right after AD 95. And it continued until Constantine. And after Constantine, even pagan religion was defeated by Christianity. But it does show us that this prophecy of 6, 3, and 4, where the Lord tells John, I will remove my peace from the earth, from the Roman Empire, so that they will kill one another, and they did end up killing one another. They warred against each other, and it became the beginning of the downfall of the Roman Empire. So it's really an important block one, because the red horse of war was internal. It was internal destruction of the Roman Empire, internal removal of peace. From here, let's move on and take a look at block 2. In block 2, we take a look at the third seal. That's going to be 6, 5, and 6. We read in verse 5, when he opened the third seal, I heard the third living being say, Come forth. And I beheld a black horse, and he that sat upon it had a balance in his hands. Zugos means balance or scales. In the ancient world, food was distributed by rationed amounts. When there was famine, if you cross-reference Ezekiel 4:10, and the food which you shall eat shall be by weight. Specifically, if we take a look at verse 6, and I heard a voice in the midst of the 4 living beings say, a measure of wheat for a denarius, and 3 measures of barley for a denarius. And see that you do not hurt oil or wine. Me adakeo means do not harm. The voice in the midst of the throne is Christ himself, who is the Rhema voice of the eternal Logos. We know that from the Gospel of John. Jesus Christ is the Rhema voice of the eternal Logos. This reinforces the view that the tribulations come directly from the divine throne room. They come from the throne. A denarius was a day's wage. Those suffering would only be able to buy limited food quantities during this famine, with nothing left over for wine or oil. Now in AD 92, Domitian did have half of the vineyards in Asia Minor destroyed. And we can cross-reference Joel 1:10 for the severe famine. But we do have the promise in Revelation 7:16. We are told that the overcomers shall hunger no more. Those who are faithful, the faithful overcomers, receive the promise in 7:16. They shall hunger or thirst no more. We'll get to that later, though, but that does show you that the Lord will protect the overcomers, the faithful. And from here we move on to the fourth seal in verses 7 and 8, 6, 7, and 8 in block 3. Now in block 3, we read in verse 7, and when he opened the fourth seal, I heard the 4th living being say, Come forth. Death and Hades are satanic forces, but under the ultimate control of the divine throne room. You can cross-reference Hosea 13:14. I will ransom thee from the power of Sheol. O death, I will be thy plague. This was speaking of the restoration of Israel. Now it applies to the restoration of the new Israel in Revelation. If you cross-reference Isaiah 28:15 and 16, Behold, I lay in Zion for a foundation a stone, a precious cornerstone. Christ is in control of the satanic realm because of his victory through resurrection. This revelation is the restoration of the new Israel out from under the oppression of Rome. We read on in verse 8, "And they beheld a pale horse, and the name of he who was sat upon it was Death, and Hades followed him. And power was given them over 1/4 of the earth, to kill with sword, with hunger, and with beasts." And that's exousia epi te tartas, and that means authority, not power, but authority was given them over 1/4. This rider summarizes the previous 3 riders of conquest, sword, and famine. So basically, it's a summary statement for what's already been prophesied. And we look at Ezekiel again, 14:21, where there were 4 severe judgments: sword, famine, beast, and pestilence. This divine judgment was due to idolatry. And in Jeremiah we read, "The judgments are summarized under the removal of peace among the people." That is exactly what this summation is in the 4th seal. It is the result, it's the culminating summation of what happens due to the removal of Irene peace, when the healing of fragmentation is removed and fragmentation becomes the norm. This was mentioned in the sword judgment of the 2nd horseman, this removal of peace. These trials have a dual purpose of purifying the faithful and punishing the disloyal. The 4 living beings equal the praise of the redeemed throughout creation. The 4 horsemen equal the plagues of judgment throughout creation, until the final parousia of the return of Jesus Christ. But these plagues of judgment are summarized in the 4th seal. But it all falls back, key here, to Jeremiah 16. They are to be summarized under the removal of peace. That's what it's about. It's all summarized under the removal of peace. That is what John is thinking of and referencing. That is what is being called to his mind by the Holy Spirit. And so I want to go back and repeat again the importance of the fragmentation of the Roman Empire. Not its complete fall, but the beginning after the exile of John on the Isle of Patmos. So, John's exile and the apocalypse of Revelation, written AD 95, the emperors of Rome are cast into turmoil. There are 5 emperors from AD 96 to 180. Next, emperors are decided by military strength from AD 193 to 284. Even greater fragmentation, even greater turmoil. Not until Constantine in AD 324 did the Roman Empire reunite, and then Christianity was declared the state religion. So from AD 95 to AD 324, the Roman Empire was cast into fragmentation, turmoil, and completely being unsettled. The beginning of the fall of the Roman Empire. So we get great additional content here, and it helps us to really see how the prophecy of Revelation directly applied to the persecution of Domitian and the Roman Empire and Pliny the Younger in Asia Minor. In fact, remember, the capital was moved by Constantine to Constantinople, which was right at the border of Asia Minor. He even moved it. He even moved the capital. So we truly do see prophecy being fulfilled and the Lord promising in this revelation that the oppressors will be put down. I will remove my peace from the Roman Empire. I'll remove my peace from the earth. That removal of peace resulted in a tremendous amount of turmoil and a split of the empire into east and west, until eventually Constantine reunited the empire and declared Christianity state religion. And yes, I do know that Constantine And Christianity during that era did have problems with elements of paganism seeping in, but that later was purged by the Holy Spirit and the Reformation, as we know. But the important thing to note here is that all of these seals are summarized in the fourth seal. The four horsemen are summarized basically by looking at Jeremiah 16:4 and 5. They're all summarized under the removal of peace. All of this is a judgment of fragmentation, a judgment of turmoil. So it gives us a great look at the second, third, and fourth seal. It takes us through 6:8. We'll pick up next time in chapter 6, verse 9.